We're very late tonight. We're almost at 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. in the morning. But it's been a busy day today on this Sunday. And we have September 15th, 2025, and it is 1,970 days since Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room and his life was taken from him brutally. And then that was after a months of retaliation, and then a cover up, a terrible cover up, a gruesome cover up occurred. And it has taken us over 5 years. We were told to investigate. We have investigated. We have put in thousands of hours of work, and it's probably going to take 3,000 letters uh, to get our son's remains and then to get accountability. And we're close to that already, so maybe more than that. Um, so this couple weeks have been pretty tough. Let's see if I'm on and um, if everything's okay. Great. And I am really sorry for coming on so late. It just can't be helped because of all the information that we're getting in. Because the big news is of all of the John Bolton news coming in, what they're retrieving, and it's really important, and we want to address that because um, these last crimes that we've seen, the school shooting, and then Irina, the Ukrainian on the North Carolina train that was unprovoked. She didn't provoke anything, and she was targeted because of her race. That was caught on camera, and brutally murdered with a knife in her neck. And nobody helped her. There were no good Samaritans today at church. The verses were about being a good Samaritan. There were no good Samaritans on the train to rush to her aid, to maybe have a chance to help her by stopping the bleeding. And then, of course, we had the absolutely traumatizing assassination of Charlie Kirk. And he didn't provoke anything. He didn't provoke anything, y'all. Um, you know, just having open discourse, open debate, that's Western civilization. That's not provoking anything. Um, this is just an act of a network, of a faction, of a Mormon faction, a Mormon-led faction, that's absolutely will do anything to keep the border open, because they're up to no good. They're up to no good with the criminal trafficking and all the other things that go along with it. And so, I know everyone's focused on this one shooter. Absolutely, rightfully so. And we need to um, hold, uh, you know, uh, go through. It's alleged right now. We need to go through the process. And if he's found guilty, he needs to be held to the highest penalty for what he did because of the shutting down discourse and taking a life in order to shut down discourse, which is, just so egregious, so egregious. And I'm getting a lot of messages, especially with Clemson University, professors coming out, being so disrespectful, and people calling for help to get these people fired, to get them fired. So if you're if you are disgusted like we are, please contact Clemson and any of those professors that don't know human decency, and hold human life to dignity, um, and feel that they need to be fired because they cannot be in the position of forming the minds of our young people, our young adults, right? They cannot when they have show no respect for the dignity of life, and uh, for the family of Charlie Kirk, who is not a criminal. He's not a criminal, y'all. This is, they are just so evil. These professors, um, even in the Bible, criminals are showed dignity. They can even be held to capital punishment. And like if let's say it's a hanging, God says you can't leave that body hanging overnight, right? A dead body hanging overnight. You can't do that. You have to show dignity to that body. You have to take them down and give them a proper burial. That is for the worst type of criminals that deserve capital punishment. And these professors don't even have any kind of dignity at all, or humanity at all, to show debater, a debater, uh, a Christian, one that is standing up for his faith, not a Christian that is a secret Christian, like in, I always think about that movie Yentl, is it called Yentl or whatever, where the Jewish, I think it was Barbara Streisand played Yentl, and she wanted to learn the Torah or something like that, or the Talmud, and she had to close the curtains because, God understood, but the people didn't understand. But that wasn't Charlie Kirk. Kirk had open discourse. He opened up the curtains to discourse of very important matters, and that's the foundation of Western freedom, is our First Amendment right. And he was brutally cut down. Um, I just posted up a poem from one of our favorite hymns in our home that we tweaked for in honor of Charlie Kirk. Am I a soldier of the cross? And I hope that you read that. That's on Facebook. A beautiful tribute to him. We feel like it's a beautiful tribute to him, because all across the lands of this world, people are holding vigils for Charlie Kirk because they respect um, uh, the open discourse that he has left us as a legacy. And whether you agreed with him or not, it doesn't matter. I remember the first time I went to Ireland. Of course, I don't know if you know this, but we lived in Ireland for a long, long time. And the first time I went to Ireland, the the pubs the pubs were a place of discourse, of human discourse, of open discourse, and they were family places, and you went there, and of course you had music, of course you had meals there. It wasn't like a bar here. It was very different type of atmosphere. It was very family friendly, and it was a place where people went to discuss things, and they weren't in agreement all the time. Um, uh, but it is a way of sharpening your thinking. It is a way of understanding your neighbor, and it's so important to Western discourse. You don't want to. That's why I hated that mask during that whole lockdown, because it shut discourse. It shut discourse up. And that makes a very sick society, a very sick, very unhealthy society. And so, with all that, uh, absolutely being understood by millions and millions of people across the world. They are giving tribute. They are paying. They are putting vigils together for Charlie Kirk in respect of that, and in respect of his humanity, and showing support to his family. And it really brought, Jesus brings people together, uh, and that's where that human discourse comes in, right? That First Amendment right, because Christianity is never about um, collusion or uh, how do I want to say it? It's never forced, it's all about conversion, not coercion. That's a good way of saying it. It's not about coercion, it's about conversion. And that conversion comes from open discourse to be ready for an answer for your faith, right? That is our First Amendment right. That is the foundation of the First Amendment right. And so it brings people together. And, you saw that very clearly. I saw that very clearly with Richard. Was with us in 2016. We were in Israel. We took a trip to Israel, a family trip to Israel, a tour with a group of friends. And when you went into the tomb garden there, people from all over the world, um, just amazing singing, choirs coming singing. We would sing the same hymns, but in different languages. Everybody was singing different. It would bring you to tears because you could sing the same hymns, and you knew that you were totally unified and in communion, even though you didn't speak each other's language, but you spoke the language of God, right? Of God. And it was just so beautiful. It was so moving. Um, and that, soon after that, um, Richard joined the army from Korea, and to see the vigils in Korea, because Charlie Kirk had just visited. I don't think it's been a week. Um, I don't think it's been a week since he was in Korea. He was in Korea right before he went to the Utah Valley University open discourse turning point event. And, so it's just across the land, across the world, across the seas, that he really um, blessed blessed us. He really blessed us. Um, and, it is really very evil to see him being a target like that. Absolutely a target, and his life being taken from us, but from his wife and from his two children. Um, and I know how hard that is. Um, because my mother was raised without a father. He was taken also in World War II, when she was just a baby, and it's always been very difficult for my Oma with three children. She had three children. Two survived. Her husband and one of her children didn't survive, and to see. Um, being raised without a father is very, very difficult. But my Oma was a very strong woman, and I know that Charlie Kirk's wife is a very strong woman, but it doesn't make it easier. It doesn't make it easier. Okay, it just means that you can get through it. Um, it's really very evil what was done, very evil, and it has not overshadowed. I feel like in my mind, maybe in the news media a little bit, maybe a lot, because Charlie Kirk's is really all over the media. But Irina's murder, I just think that this has corroborated um, uh, what we need to address, right? And I think it has also corroborated Richard's case. Um, and this Bolton, um, John Bolton, him being investigated, corroborates Richard's case. And so we're getting information, because we know that John Bolton, with General John Kelly, were up to no good, and that we know that El Paso is the epicenter of being up to no good, because it is the front door to the United States. It is what they want to keep. The open border is really, they want to keep that door, those ports of entry open, because it has been so lucrative, and they absolutely profited. We know that General John Kelly, his company, profited greatly, and we know that John Bolton came to his side for this, and we know that all of that has to do with this same faction, this same. You call it a deep state, okay? Call it a deep state, but it's the same faction that are in the system, like Connell Witten, right? Connell Witten is the Mormon that was of the Mormon faction. I want to make it very clear, because I'm not addressing all of the Mormons. I'm just saying this Mormon faction that's up to no good. Okay. And Connell Witten is up to no good. And he had a very important role as FBI assistant agent in charge of the El Paso FBI field office, and protected. We know he protected Mormon faction, convicted criminal Leilani Hart, Mormon faction, CID disgraced agent who lost his badge, Tavita Nusa. He didn't lose his badge. He had his badge terminated in 2021 because what he had done was so egregious that it was terminated. It was revoked. And he was protected. He was protected. And we know that the whistleblower complaints in our son's case were buried. They weren't erased. They tried to erase them, but they couldn't erase them. They were buried. And of course, Leilani Hart's confession tied to Tavita Nusa, tied to Solomone Nusa of the mortuary operations. They're brothers, right? But Leilani Hart was uh, coached by Tavita Nusa. She had her confession, July 22nd, 2020 confession, to the worst type of crimes against children, and confessing that she facilitated, right? That she facilitated and failed to report decades of the worst type of crimes against children within her household. And so this is, very damning for Colin Witten, who, of course, this operation in El Paso is all, the big fish in it. The big fish is Woody Hunt. He's the billionaire. And he absolutely has so much power over what happens in El Paso. And he's also of this Mormon faction. And we know that he's of this Mormon faction because he's up to no good with El Paso Community Foundation, with El Paso Matters, with his bank, West Star Bank. We know that If he wanted something investigated, if he absolutely worked with Soros to fund Beto O'Rourke to be president of the United States. They wanted him to be president of the United States. God help us. He's really, really, really bad. He's really, really bad guy living right next to the corpse stacker of Plenitude Crematorium, allowing bodies to be, recycled for uh, in a fraud of humanitarian um, aid funds, right? That they recycled, had their insiders like the Mario Raskin Ortiz. I can name names because he's illegal. He's illegal. He's a criminal, and he's acted criminally, and we have hard evidence that he acted criminally with these autopsies, right? And we can name names in the county courthouse with Delia Briones as the county clerk that does the death certificates, right? And we know that there was so much crime in that office. Because we have the hard evidence. So we can name the names because we have the hard evidence of the corruption. Delia Briones, the county clerk, who handles the death certificates, and the medical examiner, not just the medical examiner, but the chief medical examiner, getting over almost $500,000 a year in taxpayer funds, and he's illegal and unqualified. And also, both of them are cartel tied, and they're tied to Dreams Cabaret. They're tied to Dreams Cabaret. Where Leilani Hart was getting her mail. So they're tied to 3905 Bliss Avenue. They're tied to Dreams Cabaret. They're tied to the cartel. They're tied to FTOs. And this is not me saying it. This is me reporting what the evidence confirms. And the evidence also confirms that we have very high level um, infiltrators. I would call them traitors, because would you call John Kelly infiltrator? No, he is a traitor. He was given the blessing of this country and the support from the people of this country, and he betrayed them. He's a traitor. He's an absolute traitor, and he had a motive, and he profited off of this terrible illegal open border situation. Okay, the just terrible, terrible, which caused all of this funeral and mortuary fraud, which empowered with loads of money the cartel, the FTOs. And that's why when Trump came into this, and he was part of Trump's administration, both of them, John Bolton and John Kelly, were both part of Trump's first administration. And of course, they realized that they could not persuade or um, um, make President Trump yield to having an open border, and so they were fired or left in disagreement to Trump, ready to attack Trump, absolutely in their mind, and I can say what was in their mind because they came out and said what was in their mind in a book, right? John Bolton came out in a book attacking President Trump, and Kelly came out attacking President Trump. So, in their mind, President Trump became their enemy. And you had the Walmart mass shooting, which was absolutely a, uh, an asymmetric warfare uh, attack on President Trump. a bloody one, an asymmetric warfare attack on President Trump. And Richard, because Richard's unit is absolutely tied to the Walmart mass shooting, and that is confirmed. We have hard evidence confirming that, um, and we know that Richard was whistleblowing. We know that by the all the evidence, it absolutely corroborates that he was reporting on the orchestration of the Walmart mass shooting. Very intel. Very high intel level information that could take down many in this um, faction, in this, including the traders, high level operators um, uh, in our system. That it could absolutely take it down. This is why Richard was such a threat, um, and uh, and Richard can not only um, whistle blew on that, but also on the criminal trafficking. So he was a double threat, and then he wasn't compromised, right? They didn't have anything against him. He was a distinguished honor graduate. That's why that's so important, because that gave him legitimacy. He was a stellar soldier. That gave him his whistleblowing reports a legitimacy. And so that's why they tried very, very hard to break him, to entrap him, to somehow, or they finally had to just resort to just out and outright lying, right? Out and out right lying about him. To smear his name. There was a smear campaign. I've reported on it for years, and it was so absurd because he was a stellar soldier. And, to me, it was like, it doesn't matter one or the other. He's a missing soldier. Go find him. But they were telling us the most ridiculous, the most absurd, the worst type of things to smear him. And I would be like, okay, whatever. I wasn't going to fight them because I wanted to know where my son was. We wanted to know where Richard was. And we're like, well, then you really need to bring out the cavalry to find him, right? Then you really need to find him. But their smear campaign was used as as an excuse to not even look for him, right? And so we knew that was absurd. We knew that that was wrong, and um, and over all this time, um, uh, we absolutely have gotten hard evidence proving that Richard is a stellar soldier. And it means a lot to us because it gives his whistleblower reports a lot of legitimacy, and it tells you that there was a cover up going on. There was an absolute cover up going on at the highest levels because they could not do this to a whistleblower soldier that had this kind of legitimacy, being a stellar soldier, um, if it didn't implicate them. So we knew that this implicated generals, and we would say 44 four-star generals are corrupt. We said that years ago because we knew that our evidence was showing that they were implicating themselves. We weren't implicating them by their own actions, they implicated themselves. And so now John Bolton and John Kelly have implicated themselves as traitors because we have years of evidence of what is seen and what is unseen, what they did and what they left undone, right? What they should have done, what they left undone, what is seen, what is unseen, and the unseen is mean all the redactions. If they were so on top of things, why is these major redactions needed? right? So it is very, very clear that they are traitors. They were up to no good, and that it is connected to our son's case because it is connected to that exact time period. It's about the border. It is about the attack on President Trump. Everything that our son is part of and why he was in the line of duty. They took his life brutally, and the cover up is absolutely gruesome, and why they could use and abuse, unlawfully abuse the UCMJ as a weapon against Richard, um, and get away with it, right? They got away with it when they should have been protecting him. They should have been protecting a whistleblower. And they should have, when he requested a transfer, and he did request a transfer, they should have honored that to protect him and give him protection, get him away from that border area and all the cartel there. But they failed to do that. And his life was brutally taken on Fort Bliss. And the cover up is gruesome. And we want our son's remains. That is, that's we want our son's remains, and we want to hold these people accountable. So don't think that because it's been reported that the Bolton case is taking too much of the FBI resources. No, 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 no. This is a big fish. Bolton is a big fish that will expose even bigger fish, okay? Even bigger fish, and our son's case. And because he reveals intelligence. And if he hid intelligence, used his wife or daughters or other private servers to pass on intelligence, we need to know that. And we need to know what intelligence, because that intelligence is absolutely has to do with the border, absolutely has to do with the cartels. We know that John Kelly went to go work for the cartel for Governor Mauro Campos after he left President Trump. That is counterintelligence. That is making sure to cover up, any kind of scrutiny on him. That was kind of kept a secret, but our intelligence has revealed that, and that is very, very important information. So you just don't go as a position that General Kelly had and go work for an FTO, Sinaloa cartel governor in Chihuahua, Mexico, where it is known to be a narco state, right? A narco state with narco politicians. And now we know that it had Plenitude Crematorium, and even more than that, that they were absolutely recycling corpses to fraudulently cash in on humanitarian aid for unidentified migrants. So it is, and that was connected to purchase funeral homes and other funeral homes that are connected to Fort Bliss mortuary affairs, mortuary operations, and so which is connected to the Veteran Affairs, Veteran Administration, right there, that had a convicted criminal confessor to the worst type of crimes against children in her own household, including her husband, James Courtney Hart, who was working at Veteran Affairs, IDES, Pueblo, um, death benefits, okay, and other veteran benefits, and we know that she was designated 100%. She is designated 100% disabled veteran, not with all the benefits of that, and and it seems like many others have that same designation, like it was a quid pro quo or something that needs to be investigated severely for abuse of veterans benefits uh, and death benefits that lead to, recycling corpses, right? Which is a desecration of the human body, and a total disrespect for our fallen military service members. Um, and it was more too, right? It was even the victims of the cartels, because and we need the identification, but because Chihuahua is a narco state, President Trump has had to um, work his talent for negotiation with Mexico to reveal what he has so far and extradite all of these cartel leaders. But we still have Cesar Haragi, Manuel, Carlos Manuel Salas, and Maru Campos, and others that are blocking the identification process. And uh, there's so much information coming out. They also blocked the um, the identification process of the bodies that they were recycling, and also we have information coming out that they blocked any of the um, protests. The protests. The families are not allowed to protest anymore to get the identification of those bodies, because their urns were filled with ground up stone, right? Like mortar ash, right? Or So they were given fake ash. That's the point. And they want to know where their loved ones' bodies are, because they thought they were paying for cremation, and their loved ones' bodies were being recycled and not being cremated, and they were given an urn full of fake ground stone, and so and now they're not even allowed to protest that because of the narco state there in Chihuahua. And of course, that is really concerning to us. Um, uh, it doesn't deter us, but it's concerning, because we feel that at least partial remains of our son ended up there. And yeah. Uh, so, but we are absolutely coming from the place of victory, like I said last night. We're not trying to be victorious. We know that we are already victorious. We already have won, and we are coming from that place to get the accountability and to get our son's remains. And so it's just, uh, keeping on going and getting the support of the population. And that's why this Charlie Kirk, millions and millions of people coming out for him, is so so wonderful. It's so wonderful because there's such hateful people out there, and to see so many millions and millions all around the world come out in support of his family, and paying tribute to his life's work. 31 years old, y'all. 31 years old, and people don't know this, but he had made hundreds of millions. I think it was like over $100 million, um, which made him a real force against this evil, to have those kind of resources. And he was, of course, putting that back into Turning Point USA, building um, that opportunity for open discourse, especially among the young adults all over the world. That's what he was doing. He's an absolute hero, and it is really wonderful to see so many people admit that around the world. So, any questions? Big hug. Thank you so much. Thank you, Danielle, for your prayer and your love. And we are just uh, really going through all of the information people send us. Please don't stop. It's a lot. It's a lot of information. It's mountains of information. And we really appreciate it. If we don't always respond, it doesn't mean that we don't appreciate it. We do, and we love every one of you. It's we are just absolutely know that we are working behind the scenes to go through this information, and that we are at the level, of these billionaires. We are at the level of four-star generals and the likes of John Bolton. That's so we have 5 years of mountains of hard evidence, and now it is very, very clear that Woody Hunt, and he's a huge, very powerful person, very, very powerful person, a billionaire, okay, um, that is up to no good, right? Along with this billionaire Soros, up to no good, and so that's the level with the likes of a four-star general like John Kelly. John Kelly is so respected, so respected. And our hearts went out to him because of his fallen son, right? His son fell in Iraq. I believe it was Iraq. Was it Afghanistan or Iraq? Um, but his son fell, and we all cried for him, with him, right? And he was so respected, and we didn't know that behind the scenes, um, under the cover of his beautiful uniform that we gave him, his beautiful stars that we gave him, all the beautiful benefits and that we gave him, and respect that we gave him, that he was betraying us, and he was betraying us big time, and he was betraying us in the worst type of crimes against children, and to have this um, unaccompanied migrant prophets is just despicable. It really is just despicable. That when it was all could have been prevented, and hundreds of thousands of children were trafficked and now are mostly not alive anymore. And so to see that kind of betrayal, and that's why I posted up about Saint Michael, the archangel. So Archangel Michael, if you don't know about Saint Archangel Michael, I posted about him today as a bonus. And if you haven't studied how Lucifer, was just um, a very privileged angel, covered in gold, setted jewels, given everything in the most important place in the garden of God. Um, uh, just had everything, but was so greedy and wanted more, and uh, just caused so much trouble because of the pride and the greed um, that he turned to and with his minions, with his minion angels, that became really demon creatures. And you see that kind of Tolkien is really good at um, visualizing that, where in Tolkien's books, and if you haven't read it, it's like these very privileged elves that are taken by Sauron, and they're formed and created into orcs. And this is really a depiction of the true story of the world, as told in God's word, where the angel Lucifer, who was a cherub, okay, the angels are different, and Lucifer was a cherub, um, and he betrayed God. He betrayed God with his greed and his pride, and with his group, with his criminal group, revolting against God, and these were brought down. They just were toxic to the beautiful garden of God, and they were brought down. Um, and of course, Jesus Christ won the victory of death, right? Because death came through uh, Satan, temptation, right? To be as God, to be proud, to be greedy, to want God's throne, and Jesus had to come and get victory for us, reclaim life, eternal life for us, right? And so we have that victory, but um, uh, Lucifer and his minions, they still, crawl around like, or growl around, prowl around like lions. So says the Bible. And you have Michael and his angels that absolutely fight against that. And so you see that in like the hymns, "Am I a soldier of the cross?" And am I ashamed, right? Um, to own His name, to own Christ's name, and am I to get to heaven on flowery beds of ease, or fight, um, or fight um, the cause, where so many have bled on the seas. So, it is absolutely echoing all through history, this um, this cause that we have, this position that we have. And I did not realize how God was preparing me um, years ago for this battle uh, with Richard's case, and getting Richard's remains, mentally preparing. And I'm very, very grateful for that. Um, and that was because of open discourse, right? It was because of open discourse with many in Bible studies, and with friends, good friends, even atheist friends. Um, it was because of open discourse that prepared me for um, to handle all of the attacks, the vile and vulgar attacks, knowing where they were coming from, the place that they were coming from psychologically, and being able to, and it was tough, y'all. It's tough. It's really tough to handle that and to stay focused on getting answers for Richard. And so that's so we've, from the unit, from El Paso, now it's all up. We are, and that's we're at the top level, and that's why President Trump addressed us twice, twice sending us letters, and now more is all coming. Um, that communication is there because you have to build the trust, right? You had to build the trust for President Trump under so much pressure and attack, and of course, and so focused and directed in his task, to be able to trust a family like ours, to trust us enough to send us those 2 letters. And he absolutely knows that our focus is the same as his focus, and that is to get accountability for our son, get our son's remains, to expose the criminal trafficking network, this uh, infiltrated deep state, you would want to call them. I call them a faction. And in our son's case, it's a Mormon faction that has exploited our system for their own gain in a very, very criminal way that includes the very worst crimes against children. And so we have the same focus, and we're very, um, very determined. So thank you for your support. Um, uh, Thank you so much for all the information. And please share all of this, and we will be back tomorrow, God willing. Thank you so much. Justice for Richard Halliday. Thank you.